What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Salud Cabrones podcast. I am Danny Villegas.
And I am Javier Ledesma.
And before we get started, we ask that you like, comment, subscribe, and share the Salud Cabrones podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube. And follow us on all social media platforms at Salud Cabrones podcast. Javier, you already know what I'm going to say.
They're all special.
They are all special, bro. They are. For them to come and spend their weekends here with us to talk to us, that's special, man.
I'll tell you what, this one is probably a little bit more special than others because I don't think we've ever had anybody travel state lines to see us
just like to come hang out with us, bro. Man, I mean, I barely want to drive here to hang out with you, bro.
Yeah, I know, right?
She came out here, drove hours coming out with us, man.
So on that end, man, am I thankful that she's even here.
Who do we have?
Sosay.
Sosay in the building. How are you, Miss Sosay?
Wonderful. So great to be here. I thought it was no one has ever given me this opportunity to speak about wrestling and everything. So
I'm glad you're here for that.
Then.
Yeah. I'm honored to be here.
Javier told me a little bit about you when he told me your background. I was like, oh my God, I would definitely love to talk to her. I can't believe it. You've been in the business how long?
How many? 20 years?
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years in the wrestling business. Wow. And what made you want to get into it? Who were you watching as?
Well, I wasn't, like I was telling you, I wasn't a wrestling fan. Like my brothers watched it. I mean, I watched like Miss Elizabeth and Randy Savage. That was my extent to like what I would watch in wrestling. I thought it was very violent and it was very upsetting. But and I came from a family of 4 brothers, so I was everybody was always fighting, and I'm like, I can't. This isn't me, but whatever. So when I moved to Chicago, I met a wrestler who trained with Windy City, who had shows and everything, and I asked him. And actually, at that time, I'd moved from Colorado because I used to downhill ski kind of professionally.
Okay.
And I got bored with that, so I moved to Chicago and went back to school. And I met a wrestler, and he was training at Windy City. And I kind of started asking, "What do you do? I don't understand." I thought, tell me more. And it's actually there's a school, and I was like, "What? There's a school?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Yeah, come to my shows." And I started going to the shows, and I just got interested in like those characters and how you could come out and like cut a promo, but like all this rivalry and everything. And I think at that time there was only like two groups in Chicago. There was Windy City, there was Lunatic Wrestling Federation, but I don't know how much they were established, and I can't think of any.
Yeah, that was the CM Punk group.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very, very famous, infamous. some would say.
Yes. Oh, so what was the question? You said how.
What made you want to get into it?
So I just kept watching, and then I started. It was actually Trish Stratus. I saw her. I kept seeing her on TV. And I saw her do like a Thez press, and I think on Lita or something. I'm like, that's what I want to do, And he said, the guy I was dating at the time said, there's not many.
The guy you were dating, was he the wrestler?
Yes, he was the wrestler, and he said, there aren't many women that do this, and you'd be like, there's going to be nobody for you to wrestle, maybe like 2 other girls in Chicago, because that's all there is, or there's WWE, and that's really what there wasn't any other women in the business at that time. So
it's very territorial. Like I remember, you're talking about what, like early 2000s?
Yes.
And it's strange because during that time frame, there weren't many female wrestlers. There's a handful in Chicagoland, but if you wanted to wrestle women, you're probably looking at to travel throughout the U.S. to do it, to go out to state to state, so that you're able to like wrestle other women. Yes. A lot of the girls probably became valets because there wasn't a whole lot of wrestlers. There wasn't that aspect, that avenue for them. There's been a lot of valets in Chicagoland before they were able to kind of work each other. Right now, I think we're experiencing such a big boom, and it's dictated by the upper companies because there's a need for female wrestlers now. Right. So in terms of that, as you're starting to kind of get interested, when does the time come where you tell them, hey, look, I want to train, I want to do this, and how does that welcome into the business for you?
Well, he started going down to OVW twice a week from Chicago, making that drive. And then some guys from OVW started coming to Chicago, making that drive. And so they had started having matches and storylines. And then just got to the point where he said, hey, if you really want to do this and you want to go somewhere and you want to get noticed, you need to be in Louisville and you need to like be training every day. You know, there's a regiment. There's just so much more involved than just having like a match
Every
once in a
month,
while.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just like they live, eat, and breathe this, you know, and this is what you want to do. So
you decided,
Yeah,
okay,
so-
I guess this is what's gonna
Yeah.
happen, and you ended up moving to Louisville.
right.
So when I first met you, like I knew who you were, but I didn't know much about you. And then I asked Jimmy, I'm like, who's that? And he told me, he's like, hey, you know, this is who Sosay is. And I'm like, oh my God, that's her. I've heard her name before. I know who she is. And quickly, I was like very interested in having you on the show because you have a very unique experience that not a lot of the female talent that we have nowadays has. Like the girls now, as we talked about, like there's a big boom in pro wrestling right now. So they're getting opportunities that the women didn't get before. You had to go through the OVW in a moment in time when OVW was associated with the WWE. So you got to be in the breeding ground, so to speak, for the future of pro wrestling. Explain to us, like, coming in there as a rookie, basically, and seeing
Right.
some of that. Yeah, because not a lot of people have that opportunity to be down there to begin with, and everyone that was down there, for the most part, have contracts. And you were down there with no contract, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
right?
I had no contract. So Nick Dinsmore was much a catalyst in my career as a wrestler.
For those out there, that's Eugene.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought that I had the look and the talent. Well, I was green. I had a lot to learn and everything. So he introduced me to Danny Davis, who is the owner of OVW. And at this time, he had a non-contract class and a contract class. So I was allowed in to train in the contract class, but I was non-contract. But then I was had to go to both, the beginner class and the contract class. And so it was very strict in that contract class, and that was when Rip Rogers was the trainer. And so it was 8 o'clock, boots on, standing by the ring, and then like cheering everybody on. Like, and if you weren't, you'd get a fine or reported to the office. It was very
Really?
strict, yes.
Wow.
And then it was just very intimidating because I only had like a handful of matches in Chicago, and they were kind of like, you go out and do this move, and then they'll do this move, and then you do this back and forth thing. And I was like, oh, okay, I think I know how to wrestle. But you don't know how to wrestle until you start to learn. Like, he just does basics, but you start learning, like, the structure of matches, and there's a lot more to it. It's more of the dance that you learn, and he sticks with the basics, but it's just, all these small things that happen after the move. Doing the move is like one part of it, and then the selling's more of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this is not something that that comes on immediately. And then there was a lot of things like, because I never really watched wrestling. Everybody's like, oh, everybody else was a wrestling fan. I didn't watch it. I only watched them, and then what was given to me, like tapes in the back and old time, what they wanted us to see. This is something you should be doing. This is something you shouldn't be doing. So that was kind of my perception of wrestling. So when people, and then I remember somebody referred to like spots, like it was like, what is a spot? Like I didn't understand, like what are we doing? Like, because on the indies, they're going to run the spot again. I'm like, what are they talking about? What is a spot? And they're like, there's a universal spot. There's a spot. I'm like, okay, it's like tackle, drop down, leapfrog, whatever. That's a spot? Are we talking about this? Or like a special spot, like they make themselves and then they just have like a whole spot match? I don't know. So that's like not something that language wasn't really like fed to me, or, what that. And then there would be the people that would get signed under contracts would kind of have to relearn what they thought they knew. Even though they had a lot of experience.
I was going to ask that. Did they, once you showed up there and having gone through Windy City, even if it was just for that small bit, Windy City always had this like credibility behind them because they were like the place to learn for Chicagoland.
Yes.
So going down to OVW, did you have to basically unlearn? Did they look at it and go, "Oh, we don't want you like coming down here with that," or did they go, "Oh no, you're from OVW, from Chicago. Okay, cool. Then you know what, at least some basics."
Right, that's where Nick stepped in, and he would teach beginners class and saying, this is what you need to work on, and this is what you probably already know. And that was sort of like you have to get on more shows and more experience. You know, we do a lot. I don't know if you guys do a lot of like watching tapes of yourself immediately afterwards. Okay. This was a lot.
That's old school stuff.
Yeah, you have to.
I like that because I'm pretty sure a lot of the people right now listening to the show, if they're like newbie wrestlers, they're like, huh? They'll probably see their highlights on social media. They probably won't go back and look at their tapes. And to be honest with you, I don't think I've seen a tape of myself in quite a while, other than like maybe a couple of matches that I'm like, ooh, I really want to go back and see that match. But I remember being like new and going back and seeing that to critique myself because I was told this is kind of what you do. And I kind of like that anyways. So I would always go back and watch my stuff.
Yeah, so, and sometimes it doesn't click for you because you're like, I don't understand what's wrong with what I'm doing, or you're not playing to the hard cam, you're not playing to the proper camera, you didn't know there was a camera over here or there, you know what I mean? So when you have these, and that's also another thing in OVW, they get you ready for WWE production television. So it takes a while for you even to get to that level where you are allowed to be, non-contract, and then to be on TV was a big stepping stone. So that usually takes about a year, but not probably. This was back, like I'm speaking of back when, in the day, So it wasn't. I think it was like 2005 or 4. I think my first TV appearance was. So it was quite a while.
I'm curious. You said because you said what got you into. You started watching like Trish Stratus. You saw the first time the Luthes press, on Lita, and that sparked your interest. Now you're going in, you're stepping in your first day of training, your first bump that you take. What is your first immediate thoughts?
We're in Windy City or in
just your very first bump that you took and your first day of training and just in wrestling in general.
Oh gosh, it's scary. It's not what you think it looks and feels like when you see it. It's not what I thought it would be like.
Yeah,
it's a rude awakening sometimes. Yes, you slap it, you're like, oh shit, that hurts.
Yeah, that hurts. I remember some of the contract guys, and they weren't. It's like one guy was like with he played professional football for the NFL. They had him under contract. He wasn't there long. I can't remember his name. But he was running the ropes, and he took some bumps, and then he turned to me, and he's like, is this supposed to hurt? I was like, yeah. Yes, if it's not hurting, then you're not doing it right. Yeah. Like, you have to grow a callus to this stuff. And he's just like, this is not what I thought, Usually those people, like, drop away or, it's not what they thought at all.
I remember running the ropes the very first time, and, it hurt, right? But I remember hitting the ropes, and I took precautions kind of sense because you're still new, you don't know. So I remember running the ropes really gingerly, and I got yelled at for that. You're like, no, you're doing it wrong. And I remember going like, what the fuck? And like, am I supposed to like hit that thing? Like, I was afraid of going through the ropes. That was kind of like my thing.
Gotcha, yes. Yeah.
So I was purposely like trying to hit the ropes really gingerly to like be able to control myself to come back. Because that was my fear. I'm like, if I hit this ropes really hard, I'm going to go through it. There's got to be a method to this madness. And eventually they're like, no, this is what you do. Like, I bumped fine right away, but the ropes were an issue to me in the beginning. And I remember hitting the rope one time really hard and knocked the wind out of myself. I was like, holy shit, that was hard. And I bounced back and it was fine. I had a bruise on the side. And that bruise stayed with me for a long time. It didn't go away. And we're not talking, you got a bruise on your arm and like a week later it's gone, right?
Right.
And we're talking months and months and months. That bruise was still with me because I kept hitting that same spot over and over and over again. Because at that point in time, I knew how to hit the ropes a little harder. And I remember looking in the mirror when I would get ready in the morning to go do out my regular job. I'm like, when the fuck is that thing going away? Because like it was there. And I was like, what the fuck? But it was on there for a while. And that was my rude awakening. It wasn't the bump. To me, it was hitting the ropes.
Hitting the ropes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, did you train in a WWE, what is it, 8 or 10 feet?
I can't even remember.
WWE ring?
Yeah.
It's a 20 by 20.
20 by, okay. Why am I saying that? Okay, sorry, but like an indie ring is a lot smaller.
Some are 16 by 16, some are 18 by 18.
So a couple of them, when I got in the ring, after you get used to that WWE ring and the tightness of the ropes and everything, you don't feel. I didn't feel like secure and like hitting the ropes because they were so like unpredictable.
Yeah.
And you can really get hurt, you
Yeah.
know. But then it's a little different when you're asking about bumping and everything. The bumpings, everything's different in that ring and the WWE ring. You know, hitting those ropes is like you have to like lean into those things.
Yeah.
They don't give. And if you don't, like you said, it's just, you have to do that to get, callous to them and hit them properly.
I've hit many ropes, and I'm sure you too, Danny, like where you're so used to, for example, we're used to the power rings right now, right? So we know how those things are going to affect us, right? We know how to hit the ropes. But at a time when I was traveling in a bunch of different places to go wrestle, I remember getting into the ring and I'm like, I want to, and every wrestler does this. They go in there to test the ring so they know what's going on. They run around to kind of figure out where their placement's going to be. I remember hitting a rope one time where it was literally a wire. And then just like, I don't even know what the hell was wrapped around it, but it was just a wire. Because I remember going on there, I'm like, holy, I am not jumping off that thing today. I was like, and I remember having a line across multiple parts of my body because I hit the rope kind of hard and it was a wire. And I'm like, how did that thing not snap? But yeah, those rings are notorious. Some rings are just, I don't understand how these promoters got away with it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, your fear is, there's something to that because every ring is different. So now you're in OVW, you're doing all this stuff, and you're going to these classes, and you're basically getting trained potentially to be on TV and hopefully get to those big levels. So who are your contemporaries? Who's walking around? You mentioned there was an NFL player. So here you are, relatively still new, very, very green, and you're in this breeding ground of pro wrestling. And who's around you at this moment?
A lot of talent. And I think one of the first female people I marked out for was Ivory.
Okay.
I met her when I was really green. So, and we got to work with her a lot. So it was Jazz.
So they were already on TV at this time.
They were, yes.
So
and
they were coming down there.
Right. They were coming down there to work with the females. But like I said, I wasn't even at that level. Like I was still very green. Like I couldn't even get a match because they have to give matches to contract.
Okay.
And we're going way back. So, do you remember Nikita?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
She was down there. Oh gosh. Jillian Hall.
Yeah, I know Jillian.
So I worked with Jillian a lot.
I love Jillian.
Yeah.
She was always one of my low key favorites because they never gave her a whole lot in WWE. But man, I loved her.
Jillian's a very good wrestler.
Yeah, she was.
She knows what she's doing. She worked with a lot of girls too.
She got stuck in that horrible gimmick.
Yeah.
She had the
Yes.
growth, the growth on her face.
Yeah.
Wasn't she like
that
that?
Boogeyman ended up ripping off, remember?
Yep.
Yeah, and didn't she play some kind of horrible singer?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What is that?
she
I
did.
know you want or some
Something
weird
like-
ass,
yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
weird song. But I love her, man. She's awesome. So you got to work with her a lot.
Yes, I did. I got Melina
Okay.
Perez. Do you guys
Yep.
know her?
Yes, I love Melina. Yes.
And so with that, that was during when Eminem they were developing Eminem.
Okay. Yep.
Before they took off.
Nitro Mercury.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Boogeyman was down there. That's where he started. And you mentioned that. So Brock, I never met him, but he was kind of as I came down, he was brought up. Same thing with Cena and Orton. And who was, I'm thinking of the other guys. Batista. Batista was actually down there. He would come back and then he would leave and he would come back.
Was this still
Yep.
long-haired Batista?
Oh, that's right. He used to have that long hair
Yeah,
before.
he's
Right?
had-
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it was not. It wasn't. Edge came down when he was injured.
So what was the interaction between the... all right, before I get that question, how many of you guys were down there that were non-contracted? So there was a handful, I would imagine.
There was a handful, yes.
So what was the interaction between the contractor wrestlers and you guys? Like, because you mentioned that the number one priority was to get the contractor wrestlers their matches,
Right.
say the females. So you were being trained, you might have been ready to go, but because you didn't have that contract, they weren't giving you those opportunities that they were giving someone that already had a contract. So what was those interactions like? I would imagine being down there, even without a contract, it was a benefit that a lot of the wrestlers didn't have because you were getting the training that these guys were getting, superstars were getting, and B, you were being seen by potential scouts so that if you are ready, hey, guess what? She's already here. She's already training. Get her in. So was there ever any of those interactions between yourself, those big wrestlers, for example, the contracted wrestlers, or maybe the scouts?
So that's sort of a loaded question because you're dealing with so many different personalities and different levels, and there's just so much going on with that. But with everybody you should expect somebody to be respectful, but there's, to a non-contract or a contract, because either way, we're human, we're people. They should be respectful.
Yeah.
Go around, shake everybody's hand and all that. But there's always that, it's a caste system. That kind of I'm contract, I'm better than you, or maybe, that it is not always the case. Like, they're not a better wrestler. They got lucky with the contract.
Yeah.
So it's very political, and it's just a lot of politics to sort of maneuver around.
Did that ever sour your experience?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's always this horrible, I was just talking about this on the way here. There was a time there was just this dark energy. You just don't want to do, because you get heat for everything. And you don't want to even you're afraid to make a move because you've been told so much and you've been brainwashed. And it's a very wrestling's sort of like a cult.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then everybody's walking on eggshells and they're afraid they're going to offend everybody or you're going to say something the wrong way. And it's just so obnoxious that you can't, it's supposed to be entertainment. And it's just so it's so dark, there's just and there's a lot of shady things going on and you don't really want to know about it or what, but I do remember a time, I think it was in the early 2000s, being in the back was just it's too much. There's too much tension and stuff that it was just so much because, you're expected to perform at a certain level and not everybody's performing at that level. And there's they're trying so hard to get people ready and then at the same time, Danny and Cornette, everybody knows they're not ready, and they still, hey, the WWE's we have to have them now, and so they'll get brought up, and it won't work out the way they want. You know what I mean? There's just so much going on.
As fans, those are the guys that we see and they flop.
Yeah,
because they're definitely, you can totally tell they're still not ready.
Yeah, so, and then it became more of that. It became more of this liberal way of letting people get called up when they're not ready, just because they said, hey, this is hot right now, we think they should be on TV. It's okay, whatever, and then they get called up and it's just a flop, another flop, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it could go either way. I mean, it's entertainment, but what do you really want to see? I don't know. I mean, what do you look for in wrestling? What do you want to see on TV?
Did you ever get discouraged or to the point where you wanted to just walk away from the business and you know what, I just can't even deal with this shit?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, so so of course, because you're told so you get told a couple of things, you're kind of you're replaceable. You're just somebody else. Nobody cares. Somebody else is gonna come along and replace you. It doesn't matter what you do. And then you're working hard. You're working on your body and you're doing all these things. And you're I think I look pretty good. I don't know what's the problem. And then there's nobody can really give you an answer. And so you're just there's nothing to. Yeah, what's the point of sticking around?
So this discouraging of I'm saying oh, you're easily irreplaceable. We can find somebody else. Is this something that happened all the time, where they were just on a daily basis, or they spit it out at you saying, "Hey, you're replaceable. We can find someone better, someone this and that." Would that be like a daily thing?
Yes. Yeah. And it's a daily. Yeah, it's kind of like you hear it from. You just made me think about something, that like a situation that happened. I remember getting a big pop for some we did on TV, and I got this big pop than anybody because I was non-contract. So how dare you think you can get a pop when it's only for contract? Don't you know that this is a caste system? Don't you know you should be lower? Like that kind of attitude. You get a lot of that kind of.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So was it because you weren't contracted? Were you not supposed to like outshine?
In their mind, yeah, probably, but that's not the rules of wrestling.
Right.
When it comes back down to it, it's like, well, whatever. Why wouldn't I want to do my best? I mean, not outshine and like I'm not no selling for you. I'm not saying nobody. I'm not talking about that. And
right, no, but like your performance is better, and you look better in the ring like that, where you're not supposed to outshine.
And then you're not supposed to outshine them, and then it's like you get heat, and it's like, you get heat. That's like you said, and it comes back around to like, why am I here again? Why would I want to be a part of this? Like, so, but you don't really also get any answers for, like you said. I think that the people in the office or something kind of this mentality was like, well, why should we pay them when they come down here and do this for free? So they can they'll just stick around, and we'll just continue not to pay them. And there was a couple of things that kept happening. Like we would film these promos for the office. And they would get sent to the office, we don't know who watched them. But then I was non-contract, and then I would sit down and turn on Raw or SmackDown after we filmed the promo, and my promo is on there. And next thing you know, Vince McMahon's doing the promo that I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's like going into a comedy club or something, and somebody steals your jokes.
Steals your
and they're
material.
like, and they come back and they're like, well, who did that? Because I'm sure, I don't think Vince McMahon was watching that stuff.
Yeah, they probably feeding them
I was like, that's what I'm going to say today, because we're too lazy to do anything.
Can you pinpoint like a particular moment that happened? I'm curious to see if I recognize something on TV that I saw that I'm like, oh shit, that was Sosay stuff.
Oh God, I think it was something like the Joan of Arc promo, and then Vince McMahon started talking about it. That one was one I remember. I did that promo, and then we heard him saying in reference to this, and then there's a couple other ones. There was one time I did a tryout for a WWE tryout. Like you're trying out every day for WWE. You still not contract.
You're literally there.
Every day.
Opposed to like, for example, the business itself, the company of the show is traveling to a location, and they're using the talent that's local. That's a try. But for you, you're trying out every single day.
Yeah. So every day is a trial. So this one in particular, I guess Tommy Dreamer was coming to listen to these promos. And I did my promo, but then I had to go to work. And then, so there was people there that witnessed the promo that were other girls. And then I come back and I missed a couple hours or something happened. And then this other girl did my promo that I did, but it's just that Dreamer didn't happen to hear it. And so I got word back. The other girls were like, hey, Sosay, I think you should know that so-and-so took your promo word for word. I'm like, oh, really? Man. I was like, yeah. And then he and Dreamer like marked out for this promo, and I'm like, should I tell him? Like, this is obnoxious. And I go, it's not necessary because we all know what she did. Yeah. It's like, it is what it is.
So she got all the credit for it.
Yeah, yeah. And then she got the contract.
Ooh, name names. That is shady.
That is shady. Yeah, shady. And I mean, this all happened within an intimate setting. Like, it happened at OVW. And it didn't, like, I just couldn't happen to be there for a few hours. Yeah. And then this unfolded. And I'm like, that is so underhanded. Yeah. And it's just like, in your face, and like you act like it didn't, but it made me feel good that somebody told me that we all know what she did, so it's not, she's
it
doesn't.
yeah, you experience literally what everyone always talks about the business. Everyone always says, "Oh, the business is so backstabbing." You're literally out there on your own, even though it's so many of us here. Like each and every one of us are on our own. Like that is literally the experience of that. Because like she was willing to say, "Fuck it, she's not here. I'm gonna use it for my advantage." You know what I mean? Yeah, because at that point in time, she's trying to get ahead, and it means stealing something from you. It sucks that you have to experience that, but it is literally the nature of the business. That, like, you turn on TV right now, and for example, I mentioned CM Punk earlier when you talked about Lunatic. Like, people talk sometimes in promos about like his stuff, and as original as he may be, like at the very end of the day, he stole a finishing move from someone and didn't bother to change the name. So a lot of times there's people that hate on him for that. Like, you can go up and down the list. There are so many wrestlers that are stealing stuff, whether it's promos or moves or anything like that. There's a very small portion of this business that's still very original. You know what I mean? Like everything is borrowed. That's the word, in order to not get in trouble to say it's stolen. Oh, I borrowed that. Oh, really? When are you getting it back? You know?
Yeah, that's true. And you don't know if, like, see, I don't even watch wrestling anymore, but I wonder, does Punk do that just so he can keep getting heat? It's the only heat he can get. I don't know. I mean, it's a way he knows how to get heat. So is that part of the business?
Who knows? But it's interesting that this promo got stolen from me, and it was loved by Tommy Dreamer. At the very least, I know I can tell you that if I was in your shoes at that moment, I would be very mad, obviously. But B, there's something about that would light a fire under me where I go, well, something that I did, they liked. So I'm on the right path here. And hopefully someone doesn't steal my next stuff. But like, if I'm on the right path going like, okay, they're loving this, then I know I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Is that something that when you're down there without a contract that fuels you? You mentioned you're getting heat for getting a pop that somebody else should have gotten.
But how can you say, but how do you say, like, somebody else should have gotten that pop? It's like, you have to go out there and, like, get it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the only opportunity I'm allowed is to have a live audience.
Exactly.
And then, aside from that, you can't control the nature of, like, what happens in a way, does that make, I don't know.
No, I get it, because being in your shoes, I know they're probably going to be like, well, you have to make them look good. But at that point in time, like, hell, you're also looking at me. So I'm going to make sure that I look good too. And I want to make sure that they understand that I can go as well. I'm going to do my job and make them look as great as they're going to look, because they're the stars, right? But if I know that I can get myself hopefully over and the crowd starts getting behind me, then at the very end, they're going to see me. And maybe they can say, hey, you know what? There's something to her. I would imagine that that's what was fueling you down there.
Yes, very much so. And also, like, it'd have, fans come up to you and tell you that they enjoy what you do. I remember I had like, right when I was feeling like, this is so stupid, and I'm, like, spinning my wheels. This is just so vain. Nothing I do matters. This is that kind of depression you go through. I got a letter from this kid that was dying, and said that he really enjoyed watching me and Fearless Jack do our shtick, because, like, he was in constant chronic pain. He was dying of, I don't know, he had some rare disease. I would see him at the shows, and he said, this is the only time that I can, like, feel like it's an escape from reality.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, I didn't know what I was doing affected.
That's heavy. That's heavy
that our stupid little skit was, like, affected. Like, you really enjoyed that. Yeah. And I would hear that from other people too. Like, now, that's a true fan.
Did that take away, like, your discouragement and your, like, disgruntledness of what was going on?
Yeah, so yes, it would. A lot of that would kind of, that would help me, get through the day or whatever, aside from the the caste system always being like, you're not worthy, you're non-contract, and that kind of attitude that you would just I think I kind of, like, got used to that would always be the situation
Yeah.
as far as I was concerned, but it didn't bother me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
Was there ever a moment that any of the big honchos came down there and like saw everyone whether they were contractor or not, and they kind of went, okay, she's not on the contract, why isn't she?
yes, like quite often, yes.
Okay, that's awesome. Tell me about that, because that's got to be a big, huge pat in the back that you're doing something right.
So I think this is something like Arndt Anderson came down there, and he watched our one of our lingerie episodes or something, the bikini episode. We had these like ongoing episodes, and I remember a couple people. So it wasn't like I was there. I wasn't there to hear it, but I heard it the same story from everybody. That when I did my my lingerie thing, he said, "Who is that?" And he said it to Al, and Al said, "That's Sosay, but she's not under contract." And he was a little confused. So
He's like, why isn't she?
yeah, right. He didn't ask who everybody else was.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like, well, I was like, that was very nice. And everybody's like, you should be mad. I'm like, why should I be mad? I mean, there's nothing I can really do at this point. Like,
they have to be the ones to offer me the contract. I can't go up there and be like, you're giving me one right now.
Yeah. Like, I could. I mean, I guess I could. I mean, some people did say, hey, where's my contract? Maybe I should have been more aggressive about it. I don't know. I kind of look back and I'm like, I kind of like wish I could have gone more to like, so I had like three jobs. I had like a country club job, I had a serving job, I had a bartending job. So at this point I was just like, I'm just going to make money. And then I would go to the shows and I would get as much time, I could be there as much as I could. But I think at that point I should have probably went back to amateur class or beginner class and just started working more on my wrestling, because it would have made me even more confident, But there's like a point where I don't know. I thought I felt like I'm in my prime, but nobody's noticing this. Like, am I nuts? Like, it was just like one of these things. Like, I don't get it. And I'd be invited to like all the parties in Louisville, all like more of the in parties, like all the Maxim parties, anything. I can go to any of those parties, but I can't get a contract with WWE. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't. It's just like this strange. You don't.
You were in there, but not in there.
Yeah, nothing makes any sense, and it's something. What is There's nobody has an answer. So
you're in a scenario where you're basically where everyone wants to be, but you're not getting your due. Is there any point in time where you're like, maybe I should be out there traveling and seeing the other companies to see if maybe I can spark something to happen here?
Well, what other companies are we talking about? Like, what do you mean?
During the OVW days, I think FCW was already getting started, wasn't it?
Yep.
So I know FCW was there.
So that's in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there was other notable wrestling companies out there that were producing high quality stars, but
right.
TNA, like I said,
well, then it was like kind of,
that was at the beginning, I think.
But then I did stuff with people from Trinity with TNA.
Okay.
So that got seen. Then I was like, well, do I go? I mean, I guess I could have gone to TNA. I don't know. But then I was on OVW TV. So I thought that was like good enough.
No, of course, because like OVW at that time they were the ones producing the stars going into WWE. So like I said, it's a really weird area in your career because you're where everyone wants to be.
Yes, but I'm not getting. I just no pay and there's no
So talk about these Maxim parties nowadays. Because you're like, I was getting invited everywhere. I'm like, so talk about the benefits of being at OVW.
Right. I just realized that, like, even, I would get invited to all kinds of parties. And it was funny because everybody's like, oh, she's in WWE. And I'm like, I'm not in WWE. They would just assume that I was. I'm like, I guess that's good enough. I mean, the only thing was like the pay. Like, where's the money,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you were, if it was like if you had a good match or something that made you feel like, you know what, I'm going to get a contract after this match, right? I just put on a banger. I think that contract's coming now, and it never did.
There was a yes, there was a moment there where, are you familiar with any of the stuff that I did with Fearless Jack Bull? And
I'm pretty sure if I see it, I'll be like, I know what you're talking about. But right now, it's not sparking.
so I was towards the end of my career in OVW, I was a publicist for the legendary Daredevil, the greatest man on earth. And I would, and he was just a drunk and a has-been, and I would cover up his.
That's actually a pretty cool gimmick.
Yeah, it is.
So I don't know if you're aware of this, and it actually was like really it was entertaining, but I guess like, so there was also this like, there was also gaining heat because everybody thought it was a slap in the face to all these. Old timer. I get that was a story, but I also think that was kind of a work. I think that was a made up story too, just so it could get heat and get like kind of like pressure put on him to mess with his head, because that's what they like to do. So there was a time during that where we the office, everybody came down this day, and I remember this is the day they're gonna like see this in person, and I'm gonna get a contract, and after the performance and after everything went well, I just remember they came up and just like shook my hands really hard, and they all ran away. And then I think shortly after that, like, he got released and fired, and I was like left on my own, and I never got signed. Mm-hmm. So that was like one of those moments. So like, hey, like what happened? Yeah. No answers.
There's a confusion aspect that comes with it. It's like, well, clearly they didn't like him, but they liked me enough to keep me around. Mm-hmm. But now what do I do?
Right.
Yeah. So then I had to go like, find out what to do next.
Yeah.
So that was so this was like during the time when they signed Barbie, what's her
Kelly?
Kelly, yeah, I don't remember. And then Tori or Victoria and Maurice, and I can't remember the other girl's name. With no wrestling experience. They just signed like a handful of girls and threw them down there, and then it was like back to it was like all back to the beginning. Like I said, like that should have been a pivotal point where I should have gone back to like beginner class and started just working more on my wrestling, because still, again, you're not gonna get matches, like you just, I mean, I think I had a dark match with Beth Phoenix, but she was contract and I wasn't, but she was non-contract and she showed up too, but I wasn't, and then she got brought up, and then I was like, wait a minute, like nobody's left, like I can wrestle because I should go, like I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So
living down in Louisville, to not necessarily get away from the wrestling, but I'm curious about the shell shock, so to speak, when you're so used to being somewhere and then you're living somewhere else, especially trying to achieve a dream like pro wrestling, and we all know how hard it is to like land that contract, and you move your entire life to Louisville. Of all places, boring as Louisville. Not Chicago for sure.
No, it's not. No.
Not Miami. Yeah. Not LA. Not New York.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Fucking Louisville. So now you're there, and at the time, you're young, you're out there, you're trying to do stuff, and you're like, well, now here I am in Louisville. What is that lifestyle? What are you acclimating to? You're at that point in time, I'm sure the Maxim parties weren't coming yet. So you're
during Derby, Kentucky Derby, you got that.
So you got the Kentucky Derby, but like now you have to maintain yourself. So now you're getting the job, you're doing all this. What is that initial? I got to get used to my reality right now. We get a lot of actors that come to this show. We've interviewed a lot of wrestlers and we interviewed a lot of actors. And, a couple of them have told us about the idea of moving somewhere where they don't know anything and having to go, okay, this is why I'm here for a dream, but now I have to maintain myself because there is the reality that I'm living it right now. The dream will come later if I achieve it. But now here's the right now. Yes. You're out there going and getting jobs and everything. What is everyone saying the moment they know that you're there for wrestling?
Oh, God. Oh,
Because I'm curious. Because I'm sure you told him, well, I'm actually here to be a wrestler, guys.
Yes. Well, I think a word gets around town because I had a lot of serving positions, bartending. So everybody in the general area of Louisville knows who you are. And it's kind of ironic because then they don't really know who like the WWE wrestlers are because I'm sticking around the longest, So they would always come to you and ask you questions about like what was going on, how things were going, and I didn't have a lot, to say. Oh, it would be great because they would turn on OVW during my shifts. That was pretty fun. So
Here I
you're
am on
serving,
TV.
yeah, that's you. I think that happened in Chicago too a couple of times. Like that's like a bigger deal because you're like a big fish. No, you're a small fish in a big pond.
Mm-hmm.
So like everybody downtown Chicago is like watching, the Bears, and all of a sudden they flip on wrestling and like, oh my gosh, it's you. So that's pretty exciting.
I've experienced that once. I
Yeah.
think I told the story.
I think you did.
Out in Maine.
Oh.
We were out wrestling for NWA on Fire, me and a couple of the guys. And some of the POW guys were with us, I think. I think Justin James was out there with us. Maybe Rough Crossing was out there with us.
Mm-hmm.
He's a clown nowadays. But we had like the day off. It was raining. We were supposed to do a show outdoors, and it was raining, so it got rained out. So we're like, yeah, that got canceled. So we're all chilling in the hotel, and across the street was a bar. We're like, oh, let's go to the bar. All right, cool, let's go to the bar. We're hanging out at the bar. And it was on a Friday night. I remember this because SmackDown literally finished. And the syndication over there, as soon as SmackDown would finish, boom, they would start NWA and Fire for an hour. And then all of a sudden, the people that are sitting at the bar, they're like, huh? And they start looking at the rest of the guys because the entire bar is full of the entire roster. So there's people, we're not all hanging out together. We're like spread out in the bar. And they start realizing, they start looking around the room. They're like, that is all of them on TV right now. And I remember walking around, my chest got all over me. Yep. Fucking famous right now. That's the one and only time I experienced that day.
Yeah. He was just part of the ring crew though. That's why.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Walked on like, yep. Fucking big shot right now. That's how Danny feels when this show goes on.
That's
people
right.
People recognize him on the street.
So then, when you finished
Yeah.
when you finished wrestling, what made you want to get out of the business?
It wasn't that I wanted to get out of the business, but it was like this. So I think your original question was like, what was a lifestyle like?
Yeah.
So that, so it was like, the wrestling, and then it was the gym, and then for me it was work. So it was like a constant, like, this was the routine that I had to stay in. And then I got offered, some high profile, like fitness model positions that paid me a lot of money. So and then it sort of like led me to that. I'm like, well, maybe this is what I should do, or maybe I should pursue this. So, because obviously with the wrestling, no one's, this is like a joke at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I should just like go and like get other opportunities because other people are interested. So that led me to Miami. And then that was a whole nother experience. So and then what you're saying, what got you out of the business was like kind of like, it was kind of flat, and I just wasn't feeling it anymore, and just wasn't. There's
Your
nothing.
love was gone?
Yeah, I was just not interested,
Yeah.
of any of it, and I just didn't think it was like I just didn't know what to do. So
then you get out and you spend all these years just grinding and busting your ass.
Yeah.
And now you get out of it, and where do you go from there?
I ended up at Versace Mansion, working there.
Versace Mansion.
Yeah.
Okay.
In South Beach. I don't even know how I landed this job. Somebody, I started going to like events in Miami, and so I have like a background in dance. So I got some of these like, they were kind of like go-go dancing things, I mean, not stripping or anything, but like, and they would pay you very well. And so I was like, this is like something I could do. Like, this is so much fun. And then you would be at like Miami Beach events that were private events or whatnot, and I was like, well, that's not really consistent. And a friend of mine found me this job, at bartending at Versace Mansion, and I'm like, and it's so funny because I had this job, and I'm like, this is a very unique job. There was only 4 bartenders, and they were female, and it was like, and I would get like, I mean, we're talking like clients and like high profile people, and I'm sitting here thinking about what could have been in wrestling, like what, like I'm like, oh god, because I was just so like, I don't know, like attached to the outcome of it, what would be, and I'm like, and I'm thinking like, am I not accepting the reality of my situation? Like it was just so much to, but then people would be like, the customers that would come up to the bar. So I think like guy that started like PayPal or something, like we had these like really expensive parties. Somebody would be like, she's a wrestler. And I'm like, oh God. And it'd be like, all eyes on me, and I'm like behind the bar, and I was like, you've got to be kidding. Like, you can't get away from this.
At that point in time, did you have any matches in Florida? Did you
I
pursue
didn't.
anything?
No,
there?
just the demos. I did fitness demos. So I worked for this
once
company.
you left OVW, you were
I was kind of done. Nobody really called me. Nobody gave me any I didn't know where my next opportunity was. I think a couple of people were like, you should go to TNA. You should go to... I'm like, I'm not going to drive up to like, was it in Orlando?
Yeah.
I just know it's so far. And it's like, once you're in Miami, in that area, I didn't really want to like go travel because I didn't really, I didn't know anybody in this area. Like if something happens to me, like I don't really have any connection. I don't have any, you know what I mean? It just made me kind of nervous. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to stick here until, I get more like experience, something under my belt where I can say, yeah, now I can go, or somebody should call me. You know, I'm not just not gonna like willy nilly like get in my, I just thought that was just so haphazard. Like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, because I just was there in Louisville forever.
Yeah.
I just
I mean, we talked about how crappy Louisville is, right? But now you're in Miami.
Yeah.
Like freaking sunshine, freaking everywhere. So now life is looking up. You look like you're leaving wrestling behind, and people are still going like, "Ah, that's a wrestler." But now you're experiencing new things, and you're coming into your next page and next chapter in your life. And I've seen some of the stuff that you've posted on social media. You've talked about the Versace Mansion. You've talked about the Maxim parties. A lot of the stuff that you've posted on social media tends to be like that big, expensive looking lifestyle in terms of where you're at and what you're doing for a living. How is it that you ended up doing what you're doing post wrestling, and how did that experience help you?
So what what I do for a living, I'm a life insurance agent, family business, so it wasn't so I always had something that I could I don't want to say fall back on. So I had something that wasn't, you can go out and do whatever you want, but I did have something. I don't like not having something stable and something that's real. So it just, I also had, in Chicago, I was in school for art. And when I got to Miami, I kind of pursued my art more, but it was like a struggle because you can make a lot, like you can do a lot with art in Miami. It's like the scene to be, they have Art Basel, they have a lot of artists down there. You can do a lot of things with your art. And there was like a lot of directions I could go in. And so I can't remember. I'm sorry. What was the question? How did I?
Now you piqued my interest on art. So let's screw that.
So yeah. So everybody comes, you should pursue your art. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to pursue my art, but art's an expensive endeavor to reproduce, and you gotta find somebody that's gonna buy your art.
Yeah.
And what and have it like sell, and then how you can actually do this for real. So that like what led into one thing into another, and then I think the biggest art project I had was probably something you might have saw it on my Instagram, was where I restored all those statues, those 100-year-old statues.
Yeah.
So that job was probably my biggest art job I've ever had, and I didn't have a lot of experience with statue restoration, but the sisters at St. Joseph said, hey, we want you to do this. And I'm like, you want that? So that was a learning curve. I had to I was a little bit, nervous. Like, I'm like, you want me to do this? Like, yeah, we want you to do this. You're an artist. I'm like, okay. I gave him a price and everything. And then nobody, and they said that they went to a lot of other artists in that area to ask them. And it took years to like, will you do this job for us? Because I had to restore like 14 statues. And they all said no, they wouldn't undertake this job. They were just too risky or too scared to do this.
Yeah.
And no, I just did it, and I learned a lot, and I was like, this is something I think I could do more of. And then, if I get other opportunities, other people contact me for that kind of work. But it like one thing leads to another, another commission for something else. So
Now, were you doing art before wrestling?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was going to Loyola
Uh-huh.
in Chicago, and and then I met the wrestler, and then it was like my art, and he would
How come this person hasn't had a name dropped so far? I feel like there's a name that needs to be dropped here.
There's
There's
a wrestler.
Yeah, I know.
It's a wrestler.
There's a name here. I think she's omitted his name to protect his identity.
I mean, I don't know if he wants, if I should drop the name or not, Do it. I don't know if you know who he is.
Who is it?
His name is, his wrestling name?
Sure.
It was Robbie Dauber.
Robbie Dauber.
I don't think I know.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Robbie, you're safe from my wrath right now, buddy.
He was also non-contract talent,
Okay.
and he went to Louisville with me.
Okay.
Googling Robbie right now.
Yeah,
Robbie Dauber. Robbie Dauber. But okay, so Loyola, you said you went to, right?
Mm-hmm. I went to Loyola, and I was doing like a lot of human figure drawings, and actually I was going to go for my master's and stay in Chicago. I was like, I think I had like a niche in Chicago with my art, and I'm like, yeah, I think this is where I want to stay. He's like, no, you gotta go, you gotta move to Louisville, you gotta do this if you want to do wrestling. And I'm like, well, yeah. So that's sort of what happened. And now I kind of wonder, like, I always look back and be like, should I have done that? I don't know.
So while you were wrestling, you're getting all this experience in wrestling, you're making all these big moves. Are you still doing art on the side, or you kind of just put that in the back burner?
No, I wasn't doing as much art because in Louisville, like it was you train.
Yeah.
the actual real job, being at the gym, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all like things that have to be done.
Yeah.
I remember, like, if you saw, like, how'd it go? If this is kind of funny. So being non-contract, like, let's say I skipped a day and I wasn't at practice, but those guys saw me at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
There were like a lot of questions.
Okay. Like a lot of questions.
Like,
why
weren't you at practice?
Yeah.
So I remember some people were like going in and out of that gym was like kind of like, you either don't want to be seen, but you got to go to the gym,
Yeah.
and there's like to kind of meccas of gyms in Louisville, like, so everybody's like, I saw so and so at the gym. They're obviously not sick, but I saw them.
Yeah. Right.
Or you'd see like the guys that were
I found him.
You found him
I found Robbie Dauber.
after going down your rabbit hole.
After going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, I found him. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at him. I can't say that I do know him, but
he trained in Windy City.
He did train in Windy City. It looks like claim to fame is that he was at one point in time managed by Armando Estrada.
Really?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Well,
I remember this. Yes.
Yeah. When Armando was like, I guess like the GM or something of OVW. He
Yes.
was calling people the Kentuckos. I remember during that time.
Yes.
The Kentuckos.
I think
Okay,
I was
so
the
yeah.
Secretary of the Revolution for a moment there during that time.
Okay.
so I'm back on your art. So then after you get out of wrestling, is that when you have the moment of clarity? You're like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to doing my art, doing my art, until it happens to where you end up selling your first piece.
So with the art, I think what made my art good was I didn't force it.
Mm-hmm.
But when people are like, you make the art, I'm like, I don't want to make the art. Like, I think I was in this like really good headspace, like this Zen area, where I was able to like, oh, I want to make this, and I'm not going to worry about if it sells or not. And that, I think, is like your creative space you like to be in. But it's sort of like hard to find that when you got to think like, why? Because I was sort of disheartened from wrestling. Why would I do this again if I know, like, I just pursued another creative avenue and it didn't get me anywhere? And I don't want to be a starving artist, but you also need to be creative,
Did you ever create any pieces based off wrestling or your experiences in wrestling, whether it be negative or positive?
I think subconsciously I did with the human figure drawing. So it was like and Rob pointed that out to me. He's like, you keep drawing these men in pain. I'm like, I didn't know that it was
why are they so muscular?
yeah. And he's like, do you realize what you're? I'm like, what? I'm like, I just do. And he's like, yeah, but that's like because you're like watching. I'm like, I don't know. It was like I was taking the class, human figure class, but it's not like they had any. You get models in there, but they're like old men, and they weren't. Because I like the anatomy of the human body, and I like to see muscles and stuff. So I think that I didn't know it was like subconsciously, I guess, maybe related to, he thought it was related to wrestling, that I was like drawing men in pain all the time. I'm like, I don't know, like, sorry, I won't,
They're wearing singlets. Why is that?
Yeah, I guess so.
This looks like a Boston Crab if I've ever seen one. They're in pain, but they're in a Boston Crab here.
They're all in wrestling trunks.
They clearly look like they're being put in submissions here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this comes out subconsciously. You don't know why you do what you do.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it was like it was kind of dark or something.
So now you're continuing your art today, right? Because I saw your social media, like you got your art.
Yes, I do. I still do art, and I've always thought about like when I moved from Miami, like I moved back to Michigan, and I thought I really should just go back to Chicago. But then I thought maybe that would just be like going backwards. I can't say for sure, but it's hard now because like I don't know how to pursue to stay in your profession or with things you want to do, because I want to do something creative without with paying your bills. You can't, but you have to be in the right the niche. You have to be in the right atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like Chicago, like I thought that could, it's close enough. I thought Chicago was fine, but I didn't actually end up moving back. Now, I don't know what's it like here these days. Like, is it more violence? I don't know. Is it even like a good idea to move back to Chicago?
So, after so many years of being away from the business and kind of focusing on your art and living the Miami lifestyle and whatnot, eventually you end up back in the Midwest and you do take some bookings. That's where I met you.
Yes.
You ended up at POW Entertainment, and if I'm not mistaken, you did some stuff over with SCW as well, correct? Or was it just POW?
I was just like some training, just getting back in the ring, because I missed being in the ring.
Yeah, because Uncle Terrence told me that you were out there training from time to time.
Yes, I would. Yes, and I was still looking for like somebody to wrestle. And I'm like, I'm too old to do this. I don't know, but just like being around the business and being in the ring, that's like hard when you get pulled away and you don't know, and you don't want to. It's hard to explain. You want to be around the ring, and so I just ended up like I really wasn't intending to do any bookings or
Yeah.
But then I got kind of like talked into it.
Got suckered into it.
Yeah.
Huh? So how was that conversation with Jimmy Blaze when he's like, "Yo, come over here and wrestle for us"?
So I knew I had never met him, but I always knew his name.
Okay.
So no, he was like all about it. He's like, yeah, come. He was sure. He was very nice. He, said whenever you want to come work for us, go ahead. So that's just kind of how that went. Yeah.
When it came down to finally accepting that booking, what was that? Were you excited to be like, oh my God? Was this your first booking in quite a while? Or?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Okay. So were you excited like, oh shit, I want to get back in the ring? Yes.
Excited and nervous, all those things. Yes. But, and like I said, and those rings are obviously a lot smaller than, and everything's fast. Everything was very fast. That was, I I told you about then I thought, well, maybe maybe this is a sign. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
It's a full circle, and you know what?
Yeah.
I think you owed it to yourself to just be like, you know what? It's kind of fun. You're not necessarily pursuing it in a professional way now. You're just kind of doing it for yourself at that point in time. I feel like a lot of the people that have left the business and come back to it is just a sense of like saying, this is what my original love was, so to speak, you know? So I thought it was kind of cool when Jimmy explained to me what who you were and what you were doing there. I was like, oh, that's kind of awesome. I liked it. I enjoyed it, and I remember going out there and seeing the match, you know? So it was fun.
Okay.
So now that you've gone full circle and everything, how do you... Are you happy? I know wrestling didn't necessarily love you back the way that you loved it. But that's the story for a lot of us. I mean, me and Danny are sitting here being podcasters now.
Yes. No, this is fun.
Wrestlers
I'm
turned
enjoying this more.
podcasters.
I'm enjoying this more than wrestling.
Because wrestling definitely did not love us back.
Not
the way
at all.
That we
not
loved
even,
it.
that's not even a little bit.
Yeah.
But now we're on our next chapter. Now that you've gone from that and you entered this other chapter, how do you see yourself in that? Do you feel like, is that a regret? Or do you kind of go, you know what, that was a learning portion of my life?
No, I don't. I say no regrets. That was something that I can say. I don't think a lot of people have ever experienced that. It was a very unique experience. I mean, I wish it could have gone on longer and I could have gotten paid, obviously, but you can't ever get everything you want, you know? But I think about it like kind of, it took a long time for me to get out of that thinking like a wrestler about everything. You know, this mindset, you know, I think a roommate in Miami pointed it out to me. She even said, like, you're not wrestling anymore. Like, you have to stop. Like, I'm like, what do you mean?
Were you calling things gimmicks?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, just something, yeah.
Pass me the gimmick over there, brother.
Everything's a gimmick. Yep, everything's
She's like,
a
what
gimmick.
are you talking about, gimmick?
Pretty much, yeah. So,
She
yeah.
gigs for no reason. She's like,
Yeah, that headspace, like, I don't think a lot of people, like, have ever been there. You can't, it's like you can't relate to anybody unless they're another wrestler, you know?
Yeah.
That is true. That's true. That I read somewhere that this is one of the reasons that a lot of wrestlers end up marrying other wrestlers.
Okay.
Because no one could truly understand them but their own.
I see that. I believe this. This is very
and
true.
I see that, and obviously we up and down the entire, like, in social media, you can see wrestlers that have married each other, and it's awesome. I like that because, you know, they found someone. But it's kind of tough. Like, when I have conversations about pro wrestling with my wife or with my parents or anybody like that, it's strange because I smile and I go, they'll truly never get it.
Yes.
They won't know what goes on in here when I
Yes.
think about wrestling. Like, these conversations right now where I'm having, for example, with you guys. You guys understand because if we can relate to certain things that we've experienced together, but no one else can. You know, it's kind of tough.
Right. That's very true.
You know, are you still taking bookings to this day?
I mean, depends. And there's some people, like, I'd like to take a booking where I could wrestle somebody that I know that works well with me. Like, you know, somebody that always wanted, some of the girls, like, in OVW that wanted to have matches and we couldn't have our matches because everybody else that, you know, contract had to have their matches. And now it's not like that anymore. So there's like, I want my match now, you know, I want my match with so-and-so, my match with so-and-so, because I never got to get that match, you know. So those are like the things I would be interested in doing.
Do you keep tabs on these people? Do you have contact
Yes,
with some of these guys?
I do.
And girls?
I was kind of gonna mention it to someone and like, would they be interested in doing that, or do they think they're too old, or do they think it's just like beyond, like, it's, you know, that state is gone. But I know it's a conversation I would have to have, you know. So.
Who are we talking about? Name some names and let some of the promoters out there hear this right now so they can be like, let's book Sosay and so to tear it down OVW style because they never got a chance to do it.
So there was a girl in OVW, Jennifer Thomas.
Okay.
Do you know who?
Doesn't ring a bell right now.
Doesn't ring a
Okay.
bell.
So she she was non-contract. She was also like a fitness competitor. and she was another girl
Googling
that looked,
her.
okay,
Jennifer.
that looked good, and everybody's like, why isn't she? You know, like
Yeah.
she was fit, she bumped, she was, you know,
Yeah.
in shape. She looks the part, all that, and it was one of those mysteries, like. So why doesn't anybody have eyes on you? Like,
Right.
well, what is going on here? You know.
Mm.
So there were a couple of girls that came down.
Oh wow, yeah, she is in shape. This
Yep.
chick.
Yeah.
And are you still in contact with her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually,
Okay.
she's gonna be in
You know-
Michigan.
You know, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, what's
As
that?
I'm googling her
Yeah.
and I'm flipping through pictures, I found a picture of you.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh,
Look,
maybe
look
this
at
is
that.
oh yes. that's
Look
me.
at that, people. Sosay right there as I'm looking up Jennifer Thomas.
Maybe the two Jennifers.
Yeah, look at that.
See,
Now I'm like, I'm going down the rabbit hole. Now I'm literally nothing but Sosays here now. No, but
funny.
yeah, she is. She looks familiar. I want to say yeah. Man, she looks familiar. Karma was her name.
Yes, and then I believe WWE bought the rights to it or something.
Yeah,
and they
because
gave it to somebody.
Yeah, they
and-
ended up giving it to
they give it
Awesome Kong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow, this girl was in massive shape. I can understand why people were saying why wasn't she under contract? 'Cause look at her. Yeah, at that time, at during the, I mean, even
Let me see that
now,
picture. Oh yeah. That's her.
even now, they're in this time frame. Like the girls on WWE would kill to have that physique. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah,
a lot-
like what's going on? You know.
Not a lot of girls look like her. Like as far as in shape like that.
You know
Yeah.
what though? Nowadays with WWE and all the other organizations, AEW, TNA, their female wrestlers are killing it. They are
Yeah.
all killing it. They are putting on some hell of matches. Like
Sometimes better than the guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that all the time, but like, because some of the girls are still, they're taking these very careful bumps sometimes. But you could totally tell that there's a handful of girls out there that are out wrestling the boys, the men, They're going out there and they're kicking ass. There's a certain love for it. And they're like, oh my God, these girls are amazing. I don't know if that's by design that some of the girls don't shine quite like the others.
Yes.
But there's clearly a hierarchy within the female wrestlers where these are your stars. And I mean, that goes for the men too. But I feel like the clear-cut difference is you can totally tell more on the women than you can the men sometimes. But the girls are out there tearing it up, man. They're
killing it. They're killing it.
They're
It's so great seeing what the female wrestlers what they're doing now opposed to 20 years ago when it
Yeah.
was bra
Right.
and panties matches or long,
Yep.
whatever.
I'm not gonna lie, as a growing child in that era,
As a growing child, we loved it. Yes.
we loved them. But now, as an adult, as entertaining as those matches were for a child, for a boy growing to like puberty, we're like, yeah, this is great. They were not as entertaining as the matches we see now, and I can totally understand why now I'm like, oh my God, this is way better. Like you mentioned Beth Phoenix
Yes.
earlier, one of my all-time favorites.
Yes.
I loved Beth Phoenix. And a lot of times guys would look at her and be like, well, she's not as attractive as the others. And I go, I don't care. That's not why I'm looking. That's not why I like her. I like her because she's insanely impressive of what she can do in the ring. You mentioned Victoria earlier. Huge fan of Victoria. And these are all girls that could work. They weren't your, prototype, lingerie type model type girls. The girl you just mentioned, I could see her existing nowadays in a WWE ring because she's in insane shape. I've seen some of the pictures that you have where you were in insane shape too. I find it interesting that we could have had this women's revolution a long time ago.
Yeah. That's
You know
true.
what I mean?
Yes.
Like there was girls back then that fit the mold, you included, that fit the mold, that looked the part, and that were probably not put in these positions to succeed because that's not what the audience at the time was being fed, so to speak. We were being fed these lingerie matches, and they definitely weren't necessarily the best entertainment, so to speak.
Right. And also, like, it's good when it has, and I'm speaking in, like, intellectually about a lingerie match. It's good when it has, like, a purpose.
I agree.
There's a
Right.
heat. There's something behind it. Like, the stuff that I did with Maria Canellis.
I love
Like,
her.
that was kind of like, I felt like that had like some heat and that like had a purpose to it, even though you're ripping off clothes or whatever. But there was like there was, the audience wanted to see that heat, exist. And then they would, at the same time, WWE gets bored, they don't have anything entertaining, so they're like, oh yeah, they'll do that bikini match or lingerie. It's just it's just
Yeah.
nothing.
Look at Trish. She did a lot of lingerie matches, right?
Yes.
But the matches that people remember of hers are the matches that she had with other actual wrestlers. They weren't with just tearing off the clothes. We remember the matches that she had
With Lita.
with Mickey James. That's probably her most famous match, Mickey's most famous match, that WrestleMania match, you know? So it's like these matches, clearly we had a glimpse of what the future was going to be like for female wrestling, for women wrestling, where we left behind these meaningless matches, so to speak, whether they were bra and panty matches or any kind of other matches. They, for a sense, they probably didn't serve a purpose, because again, I think we could have had the women's revolution that we have now. We could have had it 10, 20 years ago. I mean, if you go back, you mentioned earlier liking Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth.
Yes.
Her contemporary at that time, oh my God, I lost her train of thought. Sensational Sherry.
Yes.
She can work.
Uh-huh.
She can definitely work, but there wasn't many women like her. So I don't think the world was ready at that time for a women's wrestling, type scenario like hers. We had the Mullahs of the world, and we had a lot of the girls that came along, but they weren't doing the stuff that was happening 10, 20 years ago, where it was slowly ushering what we're seeing to today. There had to be a start to what it is going on. And I think you were a part of that. Like, you were in that breeding ground where OVW was seeing you girls work. And you guys, I don't think anybody's going to sit here and go, oh, the Jennifer Thomases of the world, the Sosays of the world. But you guys are definitely unsung heroes of that, that
Oh, wow.
foundation.
Well, thank you.
That foundation,
I appreciate that. It's a very nice compliment. Yeah, I was just thinking about Beth, and like, she always brought out like the best in me, because I felt so comfortable working with her.
She's great.
So,
she's very underrated.
Yes.
She's
Beth
great.
is a great wrestler.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
she even put on matches with the men.
Yep.
Yeah.
And did she do the men's battle royal?
I don't remember. I think so.
I can't remember, but yeah, she's very underrated. She's a great worker.
She eliminated Khali, remember?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But to have her in the ring with the men, that goes to show you the type of worker she is and how much they trust her to be in there with the men.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she's great. Yeah, like I said, she's very underrated, and she deserves to be. She's the Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah.
Hall of
Yes.
Famer. She deserves to be, in the Hall of Fame. And yeah, hopefully one day we get to see you somewhere in the bright lights. It's still a lot of
There's
time.
still time left? I don't know.
Getting the kudos.
Yes, still a lot of time.
Getting the
Yeah,
kudos
you guys
they
are making
deserve.
me like have like PTSD. I'm starting to get a headache, from all this stuff. Like,
The bumps are coming back. I thought I retired my bump card.
God, and a couple of times that I did get in the ring, with Terry came to, because he had let us into the SCW, the training area. I took some rolls, and I was just like, really, like, it knocked me off. Like, I was like, no balance, nothing, just from rolls. And then some bumps. And then I remember him texting me the next day. He's like, how do you feel, darling? I'm like, I feel like I'm in that box again. Like, it triggered everything, all those head. I was like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
That's-
There's times that we go
Yeah.
long periods of time without being in the ring, and we're like, ooh, yeah.
Yep. Walk back. Okay. Felt that for sure.
Yeah.
Shit.
It's like, I don't even know if I should be doing this. Like, don't want to tell your doctor what you're up to.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Did you learn
That
it?
bone should not be where it's at. Do you have any idea as to why it got there? Like, yeah, I do actually. Very good idea how that bone got there.
But is it safe to say we could see you in the ring at least one more time or twice?
Sure. Maybe, sure.
Definitely.
With like, we'd have to check with Jennifer, the other Jennifer.
I think you know what? I'm gonna make this a mission. I'm gonna find her on social media, and I'm gonna convince somebody from the Chicagoland area book these two, get their match, because they're gonna tear it down at least that one time.
Set it up, Bruce.
Bang bang.
Set it up.
We're gonna have it. Jimmy, you listening to this? That's what we're gonna look up. Jennifer Thomas.
No,
Hopefully, she's still in really, really good shape. Do you keep up with her? Do you talk to her? Is she
Yeah,
still-
actually, she's coming to visit me.
Woo,
Yeah.
the
Maybe
match
we
is
can come
set.
back. Maybe we can come back to get. Maybe you can,
See? Hey, set it up, Bruce.
So,
So, is she
Do an
still in
interview.
relatively good shape?
as far as I know, I mean, I believe so. She's always in shape.
She's
So-
popped out like 18 babies.
No, none of that.
She looked amazing. If she has, even if she's half of what she looked like before, I can imagine she's going to be in better shape than most of the
Yeah.
women that are on the roster
Yeah.
now. No, I would imagine that I think you guys are owed that opportunity to at least show the world what could have been. You know what I mean?
Right. That is that. Yeah, I agree with you. I had like. She said I had my best match with you, Sosay, in OVW, even though all like the shit talking everybody does. She's like, I don't know what's going on, but I had the best match with you. And I'm like, I know. It's like one of those things you can't, like, it is just such a strange political environment, you
Yeah.
know? Everybody's like trying to work an angle on everybody and trying to throw everybody under the bus. And then you're just there, like, it became so uncomfortable for me to like want to even wrestle the other girls anymore, because they would question like, well, why isn't she contract? I mean, she must hurt people or something, There's like,
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
just
hurt
like,
you.
yeah,
take
something
your
like
head
that,
off.
right?
Yeah.
Something like that,
Be afraid.
Yeah.
Do you,
You know?
feel fulfilled with the way your career went, or do you feel like something was definitely left out?
No, I always feel like something was definitely left out, but it's life goes on.
Yeah.
Like I have no answers. So what do you do?
Yeah.
You just kind of move on past it.
Now your post wrestling career, all the different things that you've done with your, the dancing, the artwork, and everything that you've done. Do you feel like, this is definitely what you were meant to do outside of wrestling?
Yeah, well, I always thought I was like multifaceted. Like I always had like a lot of different loves, and one, like I was telling you, with downhill skiing was still a big like love of mine, and then the art and anything that was like physical or involved, creative, making something creative and all that. And I was like, why don't you get into acting? I'm like, okay. So that was like something too. Like in Miami, there was Burn Notice being filmed. Oh, this is what I
remember
forgot to
Burn
tell you.
Notice,
Yeah, so I remember some of my friends were like, hey, do you want to be on Burn Notice? I'm like, sure. You go, well, this is the guy you need to talk to. So it was like the sound guy. So I'd be hanging out with the sound guy, and then I would be on the set, and then the directors are like, what are you doing here? Oh, she's a wrestler. And all of a sudden I'm not on Burn Notice, but I'm a superstar on the set. Like, I just wanted to be, the extra on a Burn Notice. Like it just like blows me away. Like that happened a lot. Like a lot of that like was going on. They're like, well, she's, they just assume that you're this like mega superstar, but it's like you, which can be a blessing in disguise. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll roll with that. I don't know. But at the same time, like you're not allowed to be an extra.
You're too famous to be an extra, but not famous enough
To be,
on the
yeah.
show.
So where do you fit in?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a lot of that. As you're teetering that, it's definitely an issue.
Yeah, like what do you do? Where do you go from here? It's like, or they're all like, "What are you doing here? Like, what's going on?" Like, something like you're making the scene. I was like, okay, I guess this is part of the scene, the scene, not in the scene, not on the scene. Another thing I remember, I was running, so I lived in North Miami Beach, and they were filming. I didn't even know where they were filming Burn Notice that day, but I used to do a daily run. And I came up and I stopped, and I always go behind this building on the lake, or not the lake, the ocean. And I walked up, and I was like, it was like right where you are, just like getting in character. And it was Burt Reynolds getting in character. I was like, wait, am I seeing what I'm seeing? holy crap. And I'm like, they happened to be filming Burn Notice outside my like condo that day in that spot.
What was Burt Reynolds doing it? Was
He
he
was
was he
on-
playing the dad or something?
I never saw the episode, but he was on it, and
Yeah, I
was such a
vaguely
fan.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because that used to come out right after Raw. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's
or before Raw, or
It
something.
was after.
like
Right.
that.
It was right after.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So I didn't want to interrupt. I was like, oh my god, it's Burt Reynolds. Like,
That
how cool is that?
That is awesome. I would have marked out.
Yeah, I would have too.
Shit, Burt Reynolds.
It was funny because he like found this. It was almost like when wrestlers, if you ever worked a show outside in the
You find your nice
in the
little, like,
field.
private
yeah,
area.
your private area.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
happened to like interfere. Like I'm sorry to interrupt
You walked
your
into his
privacy.
bubble. Like, oh, I'm sorry. And you walk away, but you still kind of peek.
Right?
You're like, I'm still gonna look at you. I'm not gonna lie.
All creepy about it. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't mind me. So at this point in time, what's your favorite memory from your wrestling career? Like all-time favorite memory?
Oh,
You know what? Let's make
Okay.
that a double question. All-time favorite memory, and who was your favorite person to work?
so my favorite person to work was, I'm gonna say Beth, Jillian, and Melina. Those were
Okay.
my.
Three fantastic.
Yes,
workers there.
those are yes, and I think I got. Well, I didn't. I just wish I could have worked with Jillian a little more because she got to do a lot of darks, before back when Cornette was booking TV with this lady called you're not gonna know this person, Passion. They did a lot of darks together.
I want to say I know her, but man, the name sounds really
Yeah.
familiar.
And she worked. She was a good wrestler. She was a little older than everybody. There's no way that maybe it might popped up, but
that sounds.
she had a
really
lot of
familiar.
experience. She always worked as a heel. So I just I wish I could have had like more matches with, Melina, Beth, and Jillian. And I'm trying to think like who are the other people that I.
What was your greatest moment?
Oh,
that you remember?
my gosh, I don't. I think the stuff that I did with Fearless Jack Bull was fun, is I got to do a lot of things on the mic, and I was allowed that creative freedom, which people are not allowed.
Yeah.
You said, go out and say whatever you want to. Kind of at that point, whatever
Yeah.
you want to say, hit these like times and blah blah blah, and make it entertaining. So I liked that pressure of coming up with something on the fly, but it was always like I got so much anxiety from that. But it was
Yeah.
like I still like that pressure because I always felt like every time I went through that experience, I got a little better and a little better and a little better, And I just think, oh, I could keep going with this, This is fun, and so I really like that. And I think the stuff with what else? The stuff with Maria was a lot of fun. That I really thought too. Again, like that was going to go somewhere because it sort of like abruptly didn't. It kind of ended, and that was when Paul Heyman was in charge of booking that, and then he got called up or something. I can't really remember. So he couldn't book our TV anymore. So I was like there during the time when Jim Cornette got fired.
Okay.
And actually I was there like the week before I got, I think, on TV. And so that whole experience, I'm sure you've probably heard about that.
Yeah.
There was always
Yeah.
crazy stories about him and that girl that he was with. What was their name?
What-
Gothic-looking girl.
What's her? He's married to her. What?
Yeah.
Who?
His wife.
Cornets?
Yeah.
Yes. Why can't I'm seeing her face. I can't think of her
There's
name.
all these crazy stories about those two, dude.
Yeah?
You've never heard of those stories?
I'm sure.
There's-
Why am I like drawing a blank right now and I see her face?
I keep
Yeah.
thinking Mischief. Was that her name?
No,
right?
no. My gosh, it's embarrassing.
But yeah,
It's like I can't remember
there's
wrong.
all these stories that apparently they used to like sit across the bar type shit, like try to pick up people. That a lot of dudes would come along and in order to get your big break in OVW, you had to hook up with her.
Oh, with the wife, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
See, I
stories
don't
like
know. Is this something that I heard this, but I never saw this or anything.
I'm hoping it wasn't true. And
I don't know. It sounds
you're there to tell us if you
I
heard
don't
of
remember
anything.
seeing her. I don't remember any. I remember hearing these stories, but I was like, this is like, I never saw anything. I didn't witness anything. Sorry. I don't have anything to report on that. Sin.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, no, when you go online and you look up Jim Cornette and his wife, you'll be entertained for a while. Put it that way. You'll be entertained.
Go down a rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that. I was like, Jesus Christ, I was going down on there.
But no, Sosay, we want to say thank you for coming and hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you for making the drive.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, this is like very.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, we hope you had a good time.
I hope you had a good time too.
Yeah,
definitely
absolutely.
did.
We definitely did.
Hope you enjoyed going down memory lane.
Yeah.
It was great.
When was the last time you've actually had a full-on conversation like that? Like, where you brought up all the...
Gosh, you asked me a lot of questions, and I was thinking on my way here, I'm like, I don't remember, like, 2006, but I guess I remembered a lot more than I thought, you know? I can't say the last time... Yeah, I can't say, like, the last time I mean, obviously it's something that sticks with you, but I just... You don't talk... You don't really talk about it. Nobody knows about this era, like, you know,
Any of the big names still talk to you from those days that you might be friends with?
Yeah, I mean, I'll reach out to people. I hear from them if I send them a message. I hear back from people.
Did you ever happen to go out to the Squared Circle when Victoria owned her restaurant
No,
here in Chicago?
I never went out there. And she was another person that was in OVW that got brought up. So she was somebody that I met her, I knew her, but I never got to work with her or anything.
Oh, okay.
And no, I never got to see her or see the Squared Circle.
Yeah, that was always a good time. I bring those up just because I'm curious as to what your contemporaries were during those days. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we hope we get to see you in the ring one more time.
Okay.
Yeah,
at least,
definitely.
you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I hope it'll be a memorable experience. It was something good. You know.
No, thank you again for coming and hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Before we head up out of here, any last things you want to say? Where can people find you? Put your social media out there.
Oh.
What Maxim parties can they find you at?
Yeah, are those even a thing anymore? Yeah.
Is Maxim even a
I don't
thing?
I don't think it is.
No, I mean, my Instagram is just Sosay Fine Art. It's private because, you know, I don't want to get too many stalkers. So I like to know who's following me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just not like randomly post things out there. But,
Yeah.
You don't want the Trevor Blanchards of the world following you? Hey, little shit. We love you, Trevor.
We love you, Trevor.
He's like, you little shit. He's sitting at home somewhere cursing me out right now.
Oh, my God. That's funny.
But no, thank you again to Sosay for coming and hanging out with us
Yes.
tonight. We appreciate it. Big thanks to our sponsors, the Law Office of Christopher Hoff and a Taco Villa in Villa Park. Big shout out to Chris and Bear Mysterio. Appreciate y'all, fellas. And remember, get yourself some Salud Cabrones merch over at ProWrestlingTees.com. Support, buy some merch, rock it out. And Sosay, this is the part of the episode where we sign off with a toast. You can pick up your water bottle if you like.
Yes, already.
We just raise them up and we
Cheers.
say Salud Cabrones. If you can say that, if not, why don't you say cheers?
Salud cabrones.
There you go.
She got it.
Okay, so when you're ready, 1, 2, 3.
Salud
Cabrones. We out.